Hare Krishna. Okay, we are now live. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. We will start with this Shravanam Saturday, as we always do with Vaishnava bhajans. Let me just share my screen and we can go ahead. Hare Krishna. Let me close this tab out and maybe present. Hare Krishna. So today we're singing Dasavatar Stotra by the author Jayagdev Goswami. This is in the book Gita Govinda, a very esoteric and very nice book. And the language is Sanskrit. So I will repeat every line, or actually it's a very long song. So we can all sing one line each together. Maulimalim Ramaniyam Keshavadrita Rama Sharira Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Vahasi Vishadevasanam Vishadevasanam Jaladhapam Halahati Bhiti Militayam Keshavadrita Haladhara Ropa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Nindasiyagya videraha shruti jatam Sadaya hridaya darshita pashughata Keshavadrita bodha sarira Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Vahani dhane kalayasi karavalam Dhumaketumiva kimapi karalam Keshavadrita kalki sarira Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Sri Jayadeva Kaveridamuditamudaram Shinu Sukadam Shubhadam Bhavasaram Keshavadrita Dritadhasa Vidharupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Vedano jaganti jagvahate Golamodvibrate Daityam darayate balim chalayate Kshatrakshayam kurvate Paulahasyam jayate halam kalayate Karunyamatanvate Lechan murchayate dashakriti krite Krishnaya tubhyam namaha Krishnaya tubhyam namaha Let's repeat Vedano dharate jaganti vahate Mugolam buddhibrate Daityam dharayate chalayate Kshatrakshayam kurvate Paulastyam jayate halam kalayate Karunyamatanvate Dasavatara Stotra Ki Jai. So we'll just read the translations of this wonderful, wonderful song. Um, so I'll read the first one. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a fish, all glories to you. You easily acted as a boat in the form of a giant fish, just to give protection to the Vedas, which had become immersed in the turbulent sea of devastation. Any volunteers for number 2? O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a tortoise, all glories to you. In this incarnation as a divine tortoise, the great Mandara mountain rests upon your gigantic back as a pivot for churning the ocean of milk. From holding up the huge mountain, a large scar-like depression is put in your back, which has become most glorious. And that's, of course, the demigods and the demons churning the milk, the ocean. Very beautiful pastime. Number 3. Number 3. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a boar, all glories to you. The ocean, which had become I, merged in the Garbhodaka ocean at the bottom of the universe, sits fixed upon the tip of your tusk like a spot upon the moon. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a half man, half lion, all glories to you. Just as one can easily crush a wasp between one's fingernails, so in the same way, the body of the wasp, like demon Hiranyakashipu, has been ripped apart by the wonderful pointed nails on your beautiful lotus hands. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a dwarf Brahmana, all glories to you. O wonderful dwarf, by your massive steps you deceived King Bali, and by the Ganga water that has emanated from the nails of your lotus feet, you deliver all living beings within this world. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Bhrigupati, Parashurama, all glories to you. At Kurukshetra, you bathed the earth in the rivers of blood from the bodies of the demoniac Kshatriyas that you have slain. The sins of the world are washed away by you, and because of you, people are relieved from the blazing fire of existence. 7. Anybody want to read number 7? They'll get some mercy the day before Ram Navami or the week before Ram Navami.
O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who has assumed the form of Ramachandra, all glories to you. In the battle of Lanka, you destroy the 10-headed demon Ravana and distribute his heads as a delightful offering to the presiding deities of the 10 directions, headed by Indra. This action was long desired by all of them, who were much harassed by this monster.
Number 8. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Balaram, the yielder of the prowl, all glories to you. On your brilliant white body, you wear garments the color of a fresh blue rain cloud. These garments are colored like the beautiful dark hue of the river Yamuna, who feel great fear due to the striking of your plowshare. That's that whole pastime that's being described there. Number 9, Prabhu.
O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Buddha, all glories to you. O Buddha, of compassionate heart, you decry the slaughtering of poor animals performed according to the rules of Vedic sacrifice.
O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Kalki, all glories to you. You appear like a comet and carry a terrifying sword for bringing about the annihilation of the wicked barbarian men at the end of Kali Yuga. Prabhu, would you like to go ahead?
O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed these 10 different forms of incarnation, all glories to you. O readers, please hear this hymn of the poet Jayadeva, which is most excellent, an awarder of happiness, a bestower of auspiciousness, and it is the best thing in this dark world.
Number 12. O Lord Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you, who appear in the forms of these 10 incarnations. In the form of Matsya, you rescue the Vedas, and as Kurma, you bear the Mandara mountain on your back. As Varaha, you lift the earth with your tusk. And in the form of Narasimha, you tear open the chest of the Daitya Hiranyakashipu. In the form of Vamana, you trick the Daitya king Bali by asking for only 3 steps of land, and then you take away the whole universe from him by expanding your steps. As Parashurama, you slay all of the wicked Kshatriyas. As Ramchandra, you conquer the Rakshasa king Ravana. In the form of Balaram, you carry a plow with which you subdue the wicked and draw toward you the river Yamuna. As Lord Buddha, you show compassion toward all the living beings suffering in this world. And at the end of the Kali Yuga, you appear as Kalki to bewilder the mlachas, degraded low-class men. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Does anybody have any thoughts or reflections on what we just sang? No thoughts or reflections. It's a very, very beautiful song, very dear to the Vaishnavas. If you don't know who Jayadev Goswami is, he was born a couple generations before Lord Chaitanya, and he was a very great devotee of Jagannath and very great devotee of Krishna. And you know, and one thing that's very interesting about this song is that Krishna is not unlike contrary belief, Krishna is not described as a incarnation. Yeah, because a lot of people think the Dasa Avatar Stotra has Krishna as an incarnation of Vishnu, but actually he's not even mentioned here, because the reason is that Krishna is the originator of all incarnations, as we read in the Bhagavatam. Ete chamsakala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. You know, and Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadi Radhi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. You know, so like this, a lot of that's the reflections I have on that song. Very, very the misconceptions have been um, gone by Srila Jayadev Goswami. Does anybody have any other things? We're just waiting on His Grace Savya Sachi Prabhu. Anybody else have any thoughts? Oh, there's Savya Sachi Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Gauranga.
Hare Krishna Savya Sachi Prabhu. Let me just give introduction. I hope you're well. Please accept my obeisances. I'll go to Prabhupada. Thank you all for joining our Shravanam Saturdays for this week. A lot of us are joining on YouTube, and we have a couple on the Zoom call. So for this week, we have His Grace Savya Sachi Prabhu joining from all the way from South Africa, and I'll give a small introduction about Savya Sachi Prabhu. Savya Sachi Prabhu is a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, who is a direct disciple of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He joined the temple in 2002, and he studied Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhav in Mayapur, and he has been in Mayapur, India, and he has been serving in South Africa and neighboring countries like Swaziland over the 17 years in Krishna consciousness. He spends 4 to 5 years traveling and preaching internationally, and he is currently preaching in Africa. As we all saw I forwarded that video to everybody of the South African devotees getting their golden van. We were all very happy to see that. Last time they didn't have it, but now that it's being used in the Sankirtan Seva. And he is currently on the sannyas waiting list. The sannyas order of life is the renounced order of life. So we would like to really thank Savya Sachi Prabhu for taking time and joining us today. It is now 8:06 on the East Coast of the United States. A lot of people are joining from India as well. Prabhu will speak about 45 minutes to 1 hour, and there'll be some question and answers after that. So Savya Sachi Prabhu, you can take it over. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Do very quick. Jaya Radha Madhava, okay?
Yeah.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Randana Brajajana Randana Yashodanandana Brajajana Randana Yashodanandana Brajajana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So thank you to the organizers of the program, Hari Prabhu, Ramesh Prabhu, thank you for inviting me and engaging all of us in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and possibly getting a chance to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest. So we are picking up from the 6th chapter of the 1st canto. We will cover verses 1 to 10. Let us chant the first sloka, Vyasa Uvacha, Bhikshubhi Vipravasite, Vijnana Destribhistava, Vatamano Vyasas Adye, Tata Kim Akarod Bhavan. In translation, it's in front of everyone, that Shri Vyasadeva said, what did you, Narad, do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed you in scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of your present birth? Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Vyasadeva himself was a disciple of Naradaji, and therefore it was natural to be anxious to hear what Narad did after initiation from the spiritual masters. He wanted to follow in Narada's footsteps in order to attain to the same perfect stage of life. This desire to inquire from the spiritual master is an essential factor to the progressive path. This process is technically known as Saddharma Preacha. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langaite girim yat kripa tamam bande Shri Gurum dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So we are being presented with a beautiful scene where Srila Vyasadeva, who is a literary incarnation of Godhead, is speaking to Narada Muni, who is his spiritual master. So already a very striking scenario where we find a supremely empowered, potent aspect of the personality of Godhead in the form of Srila Vyasadeva, himself inquiring. We may have known, and we most probably know, that he himself is the compiler of the Vedic literature. But he's here in a role of a disciple, and he is inquisitive about his spiritual master. It is said that the disciple, he has to check the credentials of the spiritual master, just as the spiritual master also checks the credentials of the disciple. Just recently, one of our sannyasis, gurus, told me of a young man who was writing to him, wants to be initiated. So he said, Sachi is in your area. He has to be tested. So let's see if he can work with you, and then you can let me know. And then I can decide whether I should initiate him. So there's a process of checking from the disciple's side, from the spiritual master's side. But in this case, he wants to understand about his previous life. Now, Narada Muni is the great sage who travels across the universe, who's empowered with Bhakti Shakti, who has disciples in practically on all planets, in different communities, down to even animals. Narada Muni has disciples. So how did you become so glorious, Guru Maharaj? So he's in that disciple situation, and Srila Prabhupada is highlighting Sad Dhamma Preacha, which is being inquisitive. We see that in children, right? The children, especially, 3 to about 6, 7, they have so many questions they want to know, so that they can make sense of the world. So it is said, in the beginning, Ado Guru Padashraya, one should take shelter at the lotus feet of the spiritual master. And taking shelter of the spiritual master, then one has to inquire. One has to inquire about how to get out of the perplexities of mature life. So we will speak a little bit just about the history of Vyasadeva, that in his childhood, because he was very beautiful, darkish complexion, they say black don't crack. So he was known as Krishna because of being dark and beautiful. Recently, in one of these online classes, it was mentioned about Draupadi. Fun fact, that Draupadi was darkish and beautiful, blackish complexion. And one of the devotees, very sincere devotee, nice devotee, he then inquired, how possible is it that she's described to be so beautiful, yet she was dark in complexion? So that devotee put his inquiry. He was also inquisitive. In his mind, then Krishna or blackish must be ugly. How is this Draupadi so beautiful and she's darkish? And our facilitator candidly just said, well, your inquiry just reminds me of some of the Ku Klux Klan members who wore who wore bed sheets. And that was the end of that. I think the Maharaj just felt like, why are you being racist? But sometimes not in that sense, but just naturally inquisitive, because we have certain biases and certain ideas and ideals of beauty. It was a simple inquiry from it. Because black, dark, night is scary. How can it be beautiful? So anyway, inquisitive. At least he put his question forward and he received an answer. So this Vyasadeva is known as Krishna growing up. And because he was born on an island, his father is Parashara Muni, who became attracted to Satyavati, who was Matsya Gandha, who had a fishy smell because she was the daughter of a fisherman. But despite that fishy smell, her character and beauty attracted the sage Parasara, who then charmed her and convinced her that they can conceive a child. She was worried about her chastity. He said, don't worry, they will be protected. You will remain a virgin. And the son that you will get will be very powerful, be famous, entire universe. He will divide the Vedas, and he'll be actually a portion of Vishnu. So she agreed. And so the great sage Krishna, who later becomes also known as Dwaipayana, because he was born at that confluence on the island of two rivers. And later, for dividing the Vedas, he's known as Veda Vyas. So Vyasadeva later returned to that same island where he was raised, and there he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam, and there he then met our Narada Muni. He had divided the Vedas there, and that's extensive work. You know, the Vedas are vast works. Just the Mahabharata alone, which he had to dictate to Ganeshji, who was his scribe, is about 100,000 verses. So that's a very big book, but it is written out because Vyasadeva, compassionate of heart, thinking of the women, the Shudras, those who are not Brahmanically inclined, philosophically inclined. He thought they deserved to get the knowledge about the Supreme Lord. So he packaged it in the form of the Mahabharata, which has so many storylines, and then within that inserted the Bhagavad Gita. So when Narada Muni appeared at that scene, that is when he found Vyasadeva feeling not satisfied. I've done all this work. It's all in good faith and in good spirits with the intention to show compassion, but my heart's not satisfied. So Narada Muni diagnosed the despondency, that there's a lack. You have not directly spoken about the personality of Godhead. And so in trying to give knowledge of the Vedas, you have encouraged people to become more and more materialistic in the name of the scriptures. As Krishna has said, Chaigunya Vishaya Veda Nista Guna Bhavajuna. Rise, Arjuna, above the flowery words of the Vedas, which promise different results, heavenly, celestial, and piety of some sort. Because whatever is achieved within this material world, within this universe, is a temporary result. It is perishable. And so even if you reach the heights of the heavenly planets, then you lose that past credit after it's been exhausted. And again, you come to this Matya Loka. So this is where they meet. And because Vyasadeva is taking shelter of Narada Muni, inquiring, he's also teaching us the very same thing Krishna is taught in the Gita. Tadvidi pranipratena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshana. That pariprashnena, inquiries. Prashna, one must have questions. Prabhupada says, not absurd inquiries. Spiritual master means on spiritual topics, not that Gurudev, so how many kids should I have? Or should I invest my money on the stock exchange, or what should I do? Of course, the spiritual master is very kind. He's like the father to the disciple, and he's ready to help us adjust even our day-to-day activities for our Krishna consciousness. So such inquiry comes, but not like how Prabhupada was asked how many windows are in the Empire State Building, because it was said that the spiritual master, he knows everything. So those are called absurd inquiries. So Pariprashanena questions to do with spiritual advancement. So this Sat Dhamma preacher means asking about Sat, principles of Dharma which yield the eternal result. So that is what is mentioned there in the first purport. And so Vyasadeva is inquiring. Text 2, Vyasa Uvacha, so he will start speaking. Bhikshubir vipravasite vigyana destribistava vatamano vayasa sadye tatakim akarot bhavan. Translation, Shri Vyasadeva said, what did you, Narad, do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed you in scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of your present birth? Purport. Vyasadeva himself was the disciple of Naradaji, and therefore it was natural to be anxious to hear what Narada did after initiation from the spiritual masters. He wanted to follow in Narada's footsteps in order to attain to the same perfect stage of life. This desire to inquire, I just read that. That is hilarious. So I didn't read the first verse. Okay, I thought that was the first verse. And then we're already discussing how he's asking the question. So let's just read the first verse then. O Brahmanas, thus hearing all about Shri Narada's birth and activities, Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God and son of Satyavati, inquired as follows. Vyasadeva was further inquisitive to know about the perfection of Naradaji, and therefore he wanted to know about him more and more. In this chapter, Naradaji will describe how he was able to have a brief audience with the Lord while he was absorbed in the transcendental thought of separation from the Lord, and when it was very painful for him. All right, so yes, that was sort of setting the scene for the chapter in terms of the purport there. The Naradaji, at some point, he gets the most coveted of darshans. They said the perfection of the eyes is to see the form of the personality of Godhead. Otherwise, those eyes that do not go and look upon the form of Govinda are like the holes on the heads of a snake, or the designs on the plumes of a peacock. Looks like eyes, but it does not see. So he suffered some pain, which we'll find out why later on, getting the darshan and losing it. So now Vyasadeva was introduced as the incarnation of God, which we mentioned, as the son of Satyavati, which we also mentioned. And the fact that he's inquisitive was also discussed. So basically means we will jump to text 3, right? Okay, there, text 3. O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation? How did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? Purport, Shri Narada Muni in his previous life was just an ordinary maidservant's son. So how he became so perfectly transformed right in front of me, into the spiritual body of eternal life, bliss, and knowledge is certainly important. Sri Vyasadeva desired him to disclose the facts for everyone's satisfaction. It is said that if one has to walk through a forest, you walk and then you come towards a thick forest, then you may find many, many paths there. And to determine which path to take to cross through that thick, dense forest, then one will analyze those different paths and will see the one that has been used very thoroughly. Then that says that one leads to somewhere where most people want to go. And then you can follow that. Mahajano yena gata sapanta. We should follow the path of the great devotees. And so to follow them, it is important to understand their path. So he is inquisitive to understand how did Narada Muni live in his previous life that has resulted to this. So establishing again that life is it's a multi-lifetime story. Of course, in the Vedic setting, and probably most of the devotees on the call accept reincarnation. But, some people don't. So here already, by the way of how it's being discussed, that is being put forward. So he was the son of a maidservant, means mother is not very educated. And therefore the boy himself is in a situation of almost poverty. And he had the good fortune that during Chaturmasya, great sages came and they stayed with them in their simple dwelling. And the mother was serving them, and the great saintly persons, the Bhaktivedantas, were discussing Krishna Katha. And we know that Rasayana Katha, when it enters the ear, Tat Joshua Apavagavatmani, it creates liberation. It is said like that what's the word? Satam prasanga mama virya samvido bhavanti ritkana rasayana kata Tat Joshua nat Apavagavatmani Shraddha Rati Bhakti Anukramishati. So he was hearing that kata that was purifying his heart, and he developed a taste for more, and he started to develop the nature of those saintly persons. So the potency of associating with empowered, pure devotees, Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha. Even an 11th of a second, then it's Savasiddhi Hoy. It can give all perfection. And so he spent 4 months. So how many Lavamatras are in 4 months? Many, many, many. And because of his behavior, he was not a frivolous, naughty kid. He was well behaved. So he was pleasing to the saintly persons. And it is said once he asked for their remnants, which they gave. So the remnants of the food of the devotees, the water that has washed the feet of the devotees, the dust at the feet of the pure devotees, this is said to be Mahabal, very powerful substances that purify. So there's a transference of consciousness. And interesting enough, those things, if they're looked at, from a rational, up-to-date, modern person, they are very insignificant and even remnants. I mean, we sit here and accept remnants as something wonderful. We fight for the remnants of the devotees. But remnants means someone has eaten, mixed it with their own spit, and then you have to eat it. So one with material consciousness cannot go through that. And so the boy had the proper consciousness. He accepted that prasad. And accepting that prasad, he made that advancement. So he transformed into such a powerful spiritual personality. This is his history. And by him inquiring is so that we can also hear for our benefit, he's asking. So text 4. O great sage, time annihilates everything in due course. So how is it that this subject matter, which happened prior to this day of Brahma, is still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time? Very wonderful question. Is this a fairy tale? How do you remember something from a previous kalpa? So Prabhupada writes, as spirit is not annihilated even after the annihilation of the material body, so also spiritual consciousness is not annihilated. Sri Narad developed the spiritual consciousness even when he had his material body in the previous kalpa. Consciousness of the material body means spiritual consciousness expressed through the medium of a material body. This consciousness is inferior, destructible, and perverted. But super consciousness of the supra mind in the spiritual plane is as good as the spirit soul and is never annihilated. So very interesting conceptions are being brought forward about time as the all-controlling force in the universe, which crushes and destroys everything. Even the great pyramids at some point will be reduced to dust by the time factor. So definitely the human body is super fragile. How long can it live? So how are you remembering things from a life in a previous kalpa? Brahma lives long life, 311 trillion, 40 billion years. Yeah, it's just like, what? That's what in Christianity people may call heaven, eternal life, because even just 10 million years is so long that it seems eternal. What to speak of 40 billion years? What to speak of 311 trillion years? So how come time didn't affect your memory? And then now Srila Prabhupada is discussing consciousness, that the living being is discussed and is known as a conscious being. So we are the consciousness, and we are also qualified by our consciousness, meaning we are aware of things, and also the quality of our awareness can be said to describe who we are. Like this person has low consciousness. Why? Because they're acting in ways that are symptomatic of living beings endowed with lower consciousness, like someone with animalistic tendencies. So Prabhupada is saying how when consciousness is flowing through the body and that conscious living being identifies himself through the medium of the body and senses, that is, consciousness is called material consciousness. And it is a perverted consciousness. But when one is in super consciousness, that means identifies with the soul, identifies with the eternal platform, then that type of consciousness is never annihilated. So meaning Narad, having achieved super consciousness, then his consciousness was not identified with the lower inferior body, and therefore he could retain whatever he understood on that platform. It's not disturbed by time. His memory wasn't disturbed by time because it was on the transcendental platform. So if one is not satisfied with that reasoning, then forever hold your peace, because that's the Bhagavatam's version. Text number 5, I will read it. We are also chasing time, as you may see. We're like trying to sprint through the shlokas. So now Narada Muni is speaking. Shri Narad said, the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In his previous life, when Narada Ji was impregnated with spiritual knowledge by the grace of the great sages, there was a tangible change in his life. Although he was only a boy of 5 years, that is an important symptom visible after initiation by the bona fide spiritual master. Actual association of devotees brings about a quick change in life for spiritual realization. So how it so acted upon the previous life of Sri Narada Muni is described by and by in this chapter. The sages imparted scientific knowledge. Prabhupada engages this word scientific because the paradigm of modern man holds science as a very lofty discipline. And so for everything, everyone wants to know, how scientific is that? Anything you say, is that scientific? Because that is the branch of knowledge that is being seen as the most important, because science has surely given us so much in terms of material gadgets. Means we've been able to control matter in so many ways, manipulate it, and create objects of enjoyment. And also science is working from the platform of sensual perception, things that can be verified by our senses. So people feel that's concrete. Whereas some realities are not objectively verifiable by our senses, but they're actually subjectively verified by individual consciousness. Yeah. Just like my mother was telling me, she went to the hospital. She stays alone, so the grass had grown, and she decided she had to cut the grass. And somehow or the other, the lawnmower was broken, so she took traditional slasher, and she was chopping the grass. Poor lady, 65. And then she felt great, and after some days, she had a pain on her arm. And she went to the doctors, and she's trying to explain. The doctor is quick to just, okay, maybe you do an MRI, maybe I give you this medication. And she's feeling like, look, he's not listening, I must explain, because he doesn't understand the type of pain. So individual consciousness is aware of its own pleasures and pains on the body level. My mother could understand the type of pain. The doctor, although he's schooled and has qualified, he cannot perceive her pain. There is no instrument for measuring her pain. And so I'm bringing that up in terms of science is able to do many things, but there's a realm of knowledge that science cannot be able to really help us, at least materialistic science. So then we come to the scientific knowledge of the Bhagavatam, which is the science of the consciousness. So the sages gave that type of wisdom to him, knowledge of transcendence. And so then they left. And now Srila Prabhupada is bringing up a point in the purport that after being initiated, so this initiation, diksha, means the transference of transcendental knowledge. I mean, one who is a spiritual master, or who is, he said, Acharya Pashamam. One who is Acharya, he has to know what is what, means what is matter, what is spirit. So there's a change after initiation that has to be seen grossly, and most people see that no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, no meat eating. So that can be seen. This person is following that. And another change is that this person is now talking to themselves. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. People wondered, what happened to this guy? He was a nice guy. And now we see him talking to himself, pacing up and down. That is the mystic power of being initiated into transcendental knowledge. Then one maintains vows of chanting the holy name. And so visible changes, the character has to change, because now one is living for fulfilling the instructions of the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada mentions 241 of Bhagavad Gita, that verse, Vyavasatmika Buddhi Ekya Kurunandana. that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his purport talks about one has to mold their life to fulfill the desires of the spiritual master. When he read that, he aspired to come to that level, to live his life fully under the direction of the spiritual master. So these changes should be visible. And in Narada Muni, although he was a 5-year-old boy, he didn't act like a 5-year-old boy. And we'll find out later, as it's by and by in the chapter, the story is unpacked what happened. Text 6. I was the only son of my mother, who was not only a simple woman, but a maid servant as well. Since I was her only offspring, she had no other alternative for protection. She bound me with the tie of affection. Text 7. So this is sweet. Most of the devotees here are from Indian families, and some may even be from Bengali families, hopefully. Prabhupada insisted and mentioned about the heart of a Bengali mother. Anyway, if you come from a home in India, and family is still there, mother and father and brothers and extended family. So the service that the mother performs for the child really binds the heart of the child, that we see across the planet, especially Indian men, also from Bangladesh. I meet them, Singapore, different places here in South Africa. They're willing to go to the ends of the earth to work very hard, and they take practically all their pay and send back to family, to the parents, because reciprocating that sweetness. So Narada was also in a bond of sweetness and affection from her mother, from his mother, and she only had him. So text 7. She wanted to look after my maintenance properly, but because she was not independent, she was not able to do anything for me. The world is under the full control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master. This is some tough truth, but it is the opulence of Srimad Bhagavatam, that Srimad Bhagavatam allows us to accept the reality of this world as it is. So even though we may feel that we are maintaining others or we're being maintained by others, the ultimate maintainer is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So nobody is independent. So all the movements for independence, whether political, social, or otherwise financial freedom, independence, are just partial, incomplete forms of independence that are very short-lived. Like I heard one person speak, and I was intrigued by the title, my detransitioning story. And that's detransitioning. So this living entity had understood that they don't identify themselves with either male or female. Very controversial topic these days, something which shouldn't be. And then, okay, they decided that they will take all the necessary surgeries to modify themselves to transition and become, something other than what Krishna had created them. I just see Prabhu's phone falling there. For a second, I thought, I hope you're not in an accident. Oh, Krishna. Thank you. It's just the phone that had the accident. And then they had a whole channel and people behind them supporting them in this dysphoria of not identifying in one way. And it's their rights, it's their body, it's their right. So then they modified it, went one way. And then now, again, the same people and others have to support them. And now, no, I didn't find happiness there. Actually, this wasn't really well thought out. Now I want to go back. I want my agenda back. So you see that our tiny independence, tiny as it is, can be misused, and we can act in very foolish ways because, you know, when you are impartial to the situation, I was just thinking like, look at this living entity, like what a mess, you know? But yes, I'm independent, I'll do what I want. But no, everything is under the control of the Supreme Lord. He has designed it in a certain way. We should find out how to fall in line and work cooperatively with that Lord. So what happened in this case is that although the mother was loving, protective, and wanted to take care of the young boy, she was not in control ultimately of what would happen to either herself and him, and because the Lord is in control. And that is revealed in the next verse 8. When I was a mere child of 5 years, I lived in a Brahmana school. I was dependent on my mother's affection and had no experience of different lands. And then we move next one. Once upon a time, my poor mother, text 9, when going out one night to milk a cow, was bitten on the leg by a serpent, influenced by supreme time. Purport: this is the way of dragging a sincere soul nearer to God. Oh, really? We should be bitten by snakes. This will bring us closer to God. The poor boy was being looked after only by his affectionate mother, and yet the mother was taken from the world by the supreme will in order to put him completely at the mercy of the Lord. So although the parent desires to take care of the child, raise them and see them become successful and happy in life, sometimes the child becomes a druggie. Or in this case, the mother, she dies before the child is even 6 years old. That's what happened in Narada Muni's case. The mother was bitten by a snake, a serpent. And it is being discussed how all of this was due to supreme time or destiny. So it's always a question. This is our philosophy fatalistic? Are we just saying that everything has been predetermined and we have no say? We just have to wait it out and let it all happen? And it played out also in a discussion between Lord Ramachandra and Lakshman. We mentioned Ramachandra since we are meditating about him these days, coming up to Ram Navami, that he had accepted the exile to the forest. He said, this is supreme destiny. This is providence. And Lakshman was thinking, no, the kingdom is your rightful claim. We should actually protest this decision. We should fight it. And Ram was, no, no, no. And so when Lakshman is talking about it's Ramachandra's right, and that only the impotent, those who are weak, they don't fight to correct an injustice. Sounds really modern, huh? Fighting for your rights, social justice warriors, and correct the system. It's flawed. But Lord Ramachandra, he didn't want to do that. So unpacking that, very brilliant devotee, His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. We love him so very much. He's so full of insights. I thought this point I should share when he said it. Beautiful, wonderful. He mentioned that Lord Ramachandra, not that he is resigned to destiny. That's not our philosophy. We also act, because when Sita was kidnapped, Ram took all the trouble, organized an army, everything to get her back. So he acted, he wasn't just resigned. But in this case, he is seeing that his role is to perform his duty. The situation has been brought by destiny that somehow a loving mother took boons from a loving father to banish him. So it is his duty as a son to uphold the integrity of his father who made a promise and he kept it, and to honor his mother who wanted him banished. So the Vaishnavas are looking how to perform our duty despite what destiny brings our way. So he gave an example that the farmer, his duty is to plow the field. And destiny means it may rain, it may not rain. So if we perform our duty, and then if destiny is favorable, then we get a good result and everything is nice. If we perform our duty and destiny is unfavorable, still we get the result of performing our duty. So destiny, supreme time, has brought this situation that the mother has been bitten by the serpent, but now a point that Krishna can be dragging us, but this word is very nice, that Krishna can kind of bring us home, right? Like in a nice car or whatever, flight, back home, back to Godhead. Or sometimes he drags us. And this dragging means it's not so nice the way he's bringing us closer, in that he takes away our shelters. Because in this world, we take shelter of our education, of our money, of our relatives, of our nations, of our alarm system. So many things we're taking shelter of, thinking they will help us, protect us, give us happiness. And when the Lord removes that, he says that's his special mercy. Takes away everything that is giving us safety and gain in this world. And then we are left with the only alternative, him. So the boy had no mother, no shelter. Now he's completely at the mercy of the Lord. So he's prime time candidate to receive full shelter of the Lord. So sometimes preachers encourage us to pray in these ways, but it's never an easy prayer that, my dear Lord, do whatever is necessary in my life if it will bring about my quick surrender and taking shelter of you. Take it away if it's an obstacle, right? We tend to want to not imitate. You know, Anukar is, we sometimes would like to imitate the higher class Vaishnavas, like Vasudev Dutt, who prayed for everyone's sinful reactions on him so that they can be delivered. We rather not imitate, but follow in the footsteps that pray to the Lord, but pray from an honest platform. I have these attachments, I have these false shelters. Please help me gradually see that actually these shelters are shelters because you have given them the ability to give shelter. So that our spiritual life is not necessarily a dragging, painful one, that all of a sudden you have to lose your legs to surrender. You know what I mean? We don't want that, no? We want to still dance in the kirtan for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we hope the Lord takes us back warmly. So the last sloka in our section, translation 10. I took this as the special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees. And so thinking, I started for the north. Purport: confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord. What is considered to be an odd or difficult moment in the mundane sense is accepted as special mercy of the Lord. Mundane prosperity is a kind of material fever, and by the grace of the Lord, the temperature of this material fever is gradually diminished, and spiritual health is obtained step by step, shanai shanai. Mundane people misunderstand it. So there's a mundane element in our conditioned state of consciousness. So we get more benefit if we identify as mundane people with a misunderstanding. Then there's scope for us to learn. If we artificially identify like Narada Muni and think, yes, this is how we think. We think it's special mercy of the Lord. Whatever disturbance, whatever troubles come, this is the mercy of the Lord. It can come out of the mouth easier than actually can be accepted and lived through when it comes in our own lives. So it can be a test. But this is the standard of purified consciousness. And it is being put before us that Narad, the young boy, because of the influence of those pure devotees, because of the actual transformative power of contact with Krishna or the Vaishnavas, that he had a different outlook from a young boy. Any young boy would be crying and, looking for some welfare situation to get into a home or somewhere. But he thought, this is the mercy of the Lord. And it's a special mercy, very special mercy. And it's attractive to us that if we can come to such consciousness, where even in the greatest of reversals or tribulations, that we can see the benedictory or the munificent face of Shyamasundar Krishna. Look at Srila Prabhupada. The bombs are dropping on Calcutta. And he's thinking, let me go and do Harinam. People are saying, let's get out of here. The bombs are falling, can't you hear? And he says, well, I see that if the bombs are falling, I'll say, this is Krishna has come in the form of bombs. So that is another level altogether. To see the bombs as Krishna's mercy, another form of the Lord. But we see that ideal and we worship that ideal, and therefore we revere Narada Muni because he's so qualified to understand that even the greatest tribulations, losing a dear parent at such a young age, is the special mercy of Krishna, and is an opportunity to diminish, as Prabhupada writes, the fever of material existence. Yes, just to close, I'm thinking about this fever. I saw once a little documentary about people who had won the lottery, and they're from United States of America. Big amounts. Some I can't even say them. It's just like ridiculous amounts of money. And these individuals become so bewildered. Basically, it's a fever that they go through. People who blew millions of dollars and are now just like you would never say they had won that much amount of money. So also there's documentaries. So we paint a balanced picture of people who do extra well after winning that lottery. Not that we are promoting gambling, because that's also a fever, but we are highlighting that a fever can come when we are in contact with material opulence. Therefore, Bhogashwara Prashaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Vyavasaik Maka Puri, no? Vyas Saika Samadona Vidyate. I always mix 240 and 241. They almost sound the same. That if we are too much infatuated by material opulence and bewildered by such things, then the resolute determination for devotional service won't take place. So that's the fever that we as practitioners should be aware of and try to make sure that we protect ourselves with good association. So thank you very much for giving an ear and helping me to try and remember this interaction of Srila Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you so much, Savya Sachi Prabhu, for serving the Srimad Bhagavatam class so nicely. And it's always such a pleasure to hear you and and to associate with you as much as we can, even though we're half a world away. Through modern technology, anything's possible. We'd like to open it up for any questions or comments that anybody has. On the Zoom call, if anybody like to unmute themselves, they may ask a question. And if anybody on YouTube, you may type your question in and I will ask it to Savya Sachi Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
I wanted to say that you did a wonderful class. I only got a chance to tune in for about a half an hour, but you describe everything very nicely.
It was nice to see you, Andy, because you were with us. We were riding with you in your car. Thank you.
Yeah, I try not to let any worldly things that I have to do stop me from getting a good class in, no matter what it is, you know. Say if I'm in the car, we all in the car. Say you're sitting down, I'm sitting down with you.
I like your mood. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Does anybody else have a comment or question? Or if not, I have one question, Prabhu. So you were speaking about this verse about that comes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that if you take the remnants of the Vaishnavas, if you drink the water that bathes the feet, and then if you get the foot dust of the Vaishnavas, these are all bala. They give you strength in spiritual life. Now, is this because I was just wondering how this works on a mercy scale, if you per se? Is it that Krishna is recognizing that you have taken a position of humility of a person who is part of his internal potency, who like a pure devotee? Is it that Krishna is recognizing your humility to that person, or is it that person is so great and that Vaishnava is so senior that he is bestowing causeless mercy?
It's a very nice question. Both are going on. That because Mahatmanas tumam pata devim prakriti mashita bhajanya nyanya manaso. So the great souls, the Mahatmas, they are under the divine protection of the Lord. So they are radiating spiritual potency because they are involved in the service of the Lord. They have that touch. So they themselves, their body is spiritualized. And therefore, contact with them yields some spiritual benefit. And also that principle of humility. It takes good faith, or at least it's either strong faith or just an innocence that allows you to be willing to take that which comes from what is considered low, the feet, or remnants. And you are seeing that because of this person's connection to the Supreme Lord, I need such mercy and I can take that. So somehow within that transcendental energy of how the Lord operates, somehow these items have been empowered in this way. That we hear also from Prabhupada Maharaj about Rajo Bhishekam, or that unless and until one smears themselves with the dust from the lotus feet of the devotees, then means the consciousness has not been qualified sufficiently with that humility, which is the first item of knowledge in the Gita. Amanitwama Dambitam. So it's descending the grace. And so we have to place ourselves in that position of being humble and really desirous to be benefited. And then also the devotee has that potency because of his contact with the Lord constantly.
Yes, think that answers my my question, Prabhu. Thank you so much. I have a follow-up question that comes up when I was hearing your answer. Is that sometimes when we display this humility, especially among the association of devotees, like say I want to get some the dust of a senior devotee, and if I want to I want to do this, it may be actually it might be transformed into pride as well. Sometimes I got the sangha of him, you didn't get the sangha of him. So this this is all in the right mood. It has to be in the right mood, right? And then I think even Srila Prabhupada says that that okay, so many people want to come touch sadhu's feet, but if they're not following his instructions, then what's really the point, right? Because taking the dust of the feet is also if you're not following the instructions, then you're actually not actually touching their feet. You're just you're just making a mockery of it. Is that the correct understanding?
Yes, Prabhu, the mood is everything. Tadami Priti Puvakam. With love, with sincerity, we say we chant the name and we worship. So sometimes there is that tendency, and it can be seen that, like money laundering, within the Vedic setting, then we figured out, oh, I can clean my karma. Therefore, invite all these sadhus. Come, sadhu or not sadhu, come eat here at my house. Take donation. They know that this is a way of purifying karma. So therefore, there's that great hankering to touch the feet of the sadhu, but it's really not really to serve. As you're pointing out, that mood sometimes is there that just to dump off our bad things, purify me. But Prabhupada, as you mentioned, brings up that, the real approach of the Vaishnava is that you want to then inquire submissively and you want to render service. And also you want to, that service is, you'll want to hear from them and shape your life actually to follow their instructions or to please them in some way. So definitely the mood has to be right. And rest assured, Krishna is in the heart, nothing goes past him. And he can detect the bhava. He can detect, But, in the circles of devotees, yes, I got the remnants of such and such Maharaj, It's like, it's sweet, but, for growth, we have to really understand that the real prasad of the sadhu is what he speaks. And if we honor that in our life, yeah.
Thank you for answering that question, Prabhu. Does anybody else have any other questions? I don't want to hog up all the time because I could ask questions to Savya Sachi Prabhu all day. Does anybody else have any questions? Alec Prabhu, Vika Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I don't have a question, but I really want to thank Savya Sachi Prabhu for a wonderful class and the examples that he gave, along the class. And one point that really stuck out for me was in the beginning when Prabhu was giving the position of a guru, that how when you inquire, Guru will always give you the answer that will help you. So that is really great point. Sometimes we feel like, we are afraid to ask Guru, because we might get judged by him or by others if we open up, be vulnerable. And, but this point and the example of Vyasadeva and the exchange between them, it's very, very helpful and gives a lot of confidence that, we can, it's our duty to open up with our seniors and especially with Guru. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for that.
Thank you, Prabhu, for, yes, highlighting it. I think it's one of those points that we can reiterate again because we need a lot of hope and encouragement. It's not easy to practice spiritual life in the current times we're in. And so, yes, the spiritual master is our well-wisher. And so when there's a disease, we have to approach the doctor. So the Sadhu Vaidya is the spiritual doctor. And then when you get to the doctor, we shouldn't hide the disease from the doctor. Otherwise, you go to these days, a consultation costs a lot of dollars, you have to pay. And then you get there, what's the situation? Me, I have no problem. But you have come here, no, actually, I'm okay, I'm feeling better now. Sometimes it happens with the sadhu though, that sometimes the ailment is in the mind and some sort of, but by seeing them, sometimes, that just evaporates.
Yeah.
But when there is something, yes, we have to present, and they are ready to try to assist us, as best as they can. So thank you for that reminder of.
Jai. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for another wonderful example of the doctor. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You're on mute. Okay.
Hare Krishna. I'm not seeing anything on YouTube. Does anybody else have any last minute thoughts or comments or questions? I was just thinking how grateful I am to Savya Sachi Prabhu for coming and speaking. I'd like to take this opportunity just to ask one more inquiry. One question is that in various places in the Shastras like Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, let's take the example of Gajendra, or even like some of these stotras like Jagannath Ashtakam or Samsara Dava. At the end, the author always says, one who recites these prayers, they're surely going back to Godhead, and they're surely to get the mercy of Krishna, or something along those lines, or they won't see the womb of another mother again. So things like this are said. But doesn't this conflict the idea that Krishna is not obliged? He's not obligated to give his mercy or shower or anything upon that. So I just wanted clarification on that these authors are guaranteeing, but Krishna is not bound by anything. So I just want to understand that.
Okay. Yes, these verses are always interesting to come upon. The enthusiasm of the devotee, to give mercy sometimes seems to exceed the enthusiasm of the Lord. In that, Krishna in the Gita says, this knowledge shouldn't be explained to those who are not austere, who are devoted. Yet we are hearing it from a devotee of Krishna, Prabhupada is representing, they're explaining, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not austere, I'm not devoted. We preach at festivals where people have never heard about bhakti. So those stutifalas, I think they're called like that, the fruit of hearing this, of reciting this, is a benediction given by the devotee, the desire for the devotee to benedict whoever goes through that. And technically, Krishna is himself, he says, where does this say in the 5th canto? No, not 5th canto. This is 8th canto, the pastime of Dvasa Muni, where he's saying, Aham Bhakta Paradino. I have no independence. Actually, my devotees, they've tied me up in their hearts, so they can basically distribute me anyway. He's telling so Ambarish has been offended by Duvasa. Duvasa, I can't help you. You have to get back to Ambarish, and if he forgives you, then everything is sorted. So in that light is that Krishna, he can decide to give mercy or not give mercy. He's not obliged, as you put. But he tends to be obliged to his devotees. At least he says he stands by the promises of the devotee. Kwanteya pratijani nami bhakta pranashati. You, Arjuna, you declare it. Me, I'm up and down, crooked fellow. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. So, yes. So then when we read that also, it comes as like the fruit of having done that yagya, going through that chapter, you feel, okay, whew, something is there. for having done this. Maybe you'll be encouraged to do it again.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That answered a lot of my questions. We have a request from Alec, Prabhu. We'll just end it with that. If Prabhu has some extra time, can we ask about the bus project, which he started to preach to local people? How's it going? We saw a golden truck was purchased on Gaur Purnima. Yeah, we'd like to hear about that, Prabhu.
Oh, yes. So it's golden truck on Gaur Purnima, and we called it the golden avatar. And yes, it's an 8-seater. We have it here at the center, and we pick up students with it. Just like tomorrow at 3 p.m. So 3 p.m. will be like 9 a.m. for you. We're having a kirtan program here. So then the students, as soon as you call them, they don't have issues with transport. We'll pick you up, we'll drop you back. And so it is already starting to mobilize the movement. And we want to custom wrap it.
Oh, wow.
So that's our next thing. So we want to put Lord Chaitanya, so people can relate to the golden avatar. He's very human-like, he's very attractive. And we see how Krishna, he has to come as a devotee to be also much more benedictory. Otherwise, he doesn't give mercy cheaply. But when he comes as a devotee, he gives indiscriminately. And we will put the Maha Mantra on it. We will put our website and Prabhupada so that it's a moving advertisement. So please keep in mind this project and give your blessings that we may maybe get more souls to take up to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's chanting projects.
Hare Krishna. Our prayers are definitely there, and we definitely would like your blessings here in Columbus as well. And you're coming as we heard that the blessings of the sadhu is not even in Zoom time and in COVID times, they don't even come here. They show their mercy through the audios of our laptops on Zoom. So we really like to thank you, Prabhu. And it's so nice to hear about other countries, even how about their preaching going. Before we joined Krishna consciousness, we were thinking Krishna consciousness in South Africa, Krishna consciousness in America. How is this going to work? But Prabhupada built a house in which we all could live in very comfortably. So we are very grateful for Savya Sachi Prabhu. And we will just end with the Vaishnava Pranam Mantra, and we will and pause our reading for today. Mansha Kalpatarubhyascha Hare Krishna. Can everybody unmute and give Savya Sachi Prabhu a big Hari Bol? Hari Bol.
Hare Bol.
Hari Bol. Savya Sachi Prabhu ki
Jai.
jai.
Vaishnava